Did you know that in the year of 2023, over 650,000 people were reported to be experiencing homelessness? And in the year of 2024, that increased by an astonishing 18%, leading to over 770,000 people going through this crisis. In the State of Homelessness 2025 edition by Daniel Salsi and others, they talk about all of the reasons that this could be happening and that they don't believe that there is going to be a decrease in this rising rate anytime soon due to things like inflation, lack of affordable housing, and many other things that we're going to talk more about in this. Homelessness is something that is so easy to experience for people due to not being able to afford basic necessities, or just having something really bad happen to you, like the loss of a loved one. You're instantly more prone to experiencing this because of the lack of motivation or the ability to go to work for a certain extended period of time. When it comes to homelessness, it is something that is an absolute crisis. And if you've ever experienced even the smallest bit of what they're experiencing, you might be able to slightly understand the full extent of this. They are unable to afford proper food or nutrition. They are not able to have a proper roof or housing over their heads, and they're not able to provide for themselves or the ones that they love. So if it's a whole family that is experiencing homelessness, then there are children who could be taken away from their parents or other things that just makes it so much more difficult and so many more obstacles that they need to fight to get back on their feet. I grew up in a city where homelessness was a really big problem that we had. Almost every corner that you turned, there was somebody on the side or a group of people in a community of tents that didn't have housing. They were asking for money or asking for assistance in any way, and we just didn't have the resources for how many people needed our help. And when I was in church, we would do some things, small things, because we were kids, in order to try and help this. I remember we would have this thing around the holidays where all the kids from the groups on Wednesday nights would come, and we would make these Ziploc bags. They had things like toothbrush, toothpaste, socks, gloves, and some snacks, maybe some, like there was water, maybe some other things that were just about personal hygiene. And we would have those in our cars, and we would just hand them to those who we saw on the side of the road asking for help, because as kids, we didn't have the money to give to them. And I think that was so important because it really, growing up in that city and seeing all those people and seeing that it was important to help them, really gave me a mindset that this is a problem that we could truly take steps to fix. Homelessness is caused by so many things like affordable housing, lack of proper shelters that can keep people safe, and lack of prevention, because we do know the statistics of who is more prone to experience homelessness, as well as lack of mental health help when it comes to this, because homelessness is such a traumatic experience, not knowing where your next meal is coming from, or if you are going to be harmed because you don't have a proper place to stay. Today, in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about all of the things that are causing the extreme increase in homelessness and ways that we as a community can help others, because it is the most important thing that you look out for your own community in this way, because truly when it comes to homelessness, community is the thing that can help people so much. One of the things that we can do, and one of the biggest things that we should start with, is fighting our government on things like the laws that they pass that causes things like tickets and fines for people who are experiencing homelessness. In the article, What Would It Take to End Homelessness in America by Melissa Hartman, talks about how things like tickets, fines, and arrests make it so much more difficult for people experiencing homelessness to recover from. Because to me, it makes no sense to be fining people who already don't have the money for food and housing for things like having to live in a tent on the side of the road because there aren't enough shelters. It just makes no sense. And it makes it even worse because the more tickets and fines that you are unable to pay, you get a warrant. And because you are just on the side of the road, it is so easy for the cops to arrest you. And when you are arrested, especially for those experiencing homelessness, they have so little possessions, and those are all at risk of being lost when they are arrested. Things like medication that could be extremely necessary for things like diabetes, heart problems, or plenty of other disabilities that they could be experiencing while also experiencing homelessness. As well as losing their ID, the one thing that would allow them to be able to get a job to support themselves. And on top of that, you also have to think about the fact that when it comes to losing your medication or losing your ID, they have no way of getting these things back because they don't have the money for the copay to go to the doctor to get a new prescription, because without that bottle, they can't get another one. And when it comes to their ID, you have to have a home address to get a new one. And a lot of these people don't, obviously, which is why they're on the side of the road. Another thing is that we just need to help get resources. The 2024 Annual Homelessness Assessment by Tanya de Sousa talks about the lack of beds and the lack of shelter that homeless people are constantly experiencing. We see that when you go into a shelter, it is already full of people, and it's oftentimes an unsafe place. You see that women and kids are often the ones in a tent on the side of the road because they don't feel safe in these places. And due to the lack of them, they have nowhere else to go. There's so minimal resources in that way. One of the ways that I think we can help this problem is by using buildings such as old hotels or hospitals that are no longer in use as temporary shelter for people that need a roof over their heads, like women, children, and just people in general that don't have that ability to stay warm from the cold or stay cool from the heat. On top of shelter, we also have to think about the lack of affordable housing. Constantly, every single day, we're seeing houses and apartment buildings that are built where rent is over $1,500. That is just unachievable for so many people. Even someone like me, because I'm young and I don't have that money to afford just a place to rent. So when we talk about these lack of resources, that is one of the biggest ones that we need to solve, is having more housing that people don't even need to qualify for, but just in general, for everybody to be able to afford living in the United States. Another thing is we need to think about how to help get even further resources, not just housing, because there are things like calling just a place to help get food or help find a resource to help get a bill extended or paid for a temporary amount of time before they lose their home. And small resources like this won't be so small to them. And another thing is that we really need to think about the mental health of people experiencing this crisis, because it is absolutely known that when you are going through such a traumatic experience, you are more likely to do things such as resort to drug usage or stealing, and this can make it so much harder for you to get back on your feet. And when you are trying to get out of homelessness, you have to have a good head on your shoulders when that is happening, because you are going through rapid changes and you need to keep fighting. How to End Homelessness by David J. Craig talks about a governor who is in Denver and how he notices that the people of the homeless community are not wanting to be a part of the community any longer, and that makes it so much harder for them to receive help. And I think the best way that we can help this is by getting mental health professionals to assist in like teaching these people to be able to continue moving forward and continue to fight for themselves and be a part of a community so that they are able to receive help. The things that are causing homelessness, like not enough affordable housing, not enough resources such as shelter and places to call for basic necessities, and the lack of mental health concern for people going through such a traumatic experience are why homelessness is exponentially rising in the United States. But there are things that we can do. We need to keep fighting our government because they have the ability to help bring down inflation or make it to where more people are eligible to be able to support themselves by affordable housing. But they make it so difficult because they think that every person fits into this one box, and that is just not true. So we need to continue to fight, and we need to see these people as humans because they're just going through something really difficult. And even if they are self-medicating or something like that, that does not change anything about what they are experiencing and how difficult that is.